Hey guys, welcome to What the F. I am so pumped about today's episode because we have some very special guests on. Before we get started, I would like to thank SK Life Science and Neurelis for making conversations like this possible. My guests today are Kate Kostolansky, who is the mom of a daughter living with epilepsy and the founder of Char Bear Keeps Dancing, which I cannot wait to talk about. We also have Dr. Christina Briscoe, who is a pediatric epilepsy fellow at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the co-writer of the book, Char Bear Keeps Dancing, which is so cool. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh yeah, this is just so cool. So the end thing that I want to talk about is this book, Char Bear Keeps Dancing, which I cried when I read because I felt like it was just so necessary and just something that needs to be seen. But before we dive into the book, I just kind of want to talk about what got us there. And Kate, that starts with you and your daughter. So what did that journey look like? What was her epilepsy diagnosis look like at such a young age?
Not great. Just...
Oh yeah, you know what? Sorry, I should have prefaced it with so what did that crappy journey start like?
Yeah. So Charlotte is my first, and I think the world of her and everything that she did was just so wonderful. Enjoyed every second of it, and I was pregnant with my second, and but I was a nervous first-time mom, kind of always wondering if is this normal, is this not normal, and if she didn't meet a milestone at the beginning of when the AAP said that she should, I'd be like I'm so nervous.
Okay, time out. For non-moms like me, what's the AAP? What does that mean? Oh my God.
American Academy of Pediatrics, is that right, Chris?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the American Academy of Pediatrics.
I love that we have a doctor to fact check right now. Yeah. This is amazing. It looks so great.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, she met all of her milestones, and then right around 2, she started doing this weird movement that kind of looked like a startle reflex. But I think something that I now know is, it was too rhythmic to be just a one-off, and it happened too often. It just didn't sit right. And
what can you describe what that looks like? I'm just because again, you're talking to someone who's oh, startle reflex, I don't know what's going on.
yeah. So
pretend you're talking to a 5-year-old when you talk to me about these things.
Yeah, so babies when they're born sometimes they do have a Moro reflex and kind of startle. I don't know if you can see my hands like that, and that's what she would kind of do. And what really sticks out to me is, now when Charlotte was diagnosed, she is in the less than 10% of kids that are diagnosed at over a year old. And so it was weird to us because of her age, but something that honestly haunts me is that for a new parent, it wouldn't look too different than a normal baby movement, and for that reason is often misdiagnosed, missed, or they might think it's I think it's often what is it, Chris? Not digestive issues, but sometimes it's yeah.
Sorry, Chris, can you repeat that?
Sometimes this particular type of seizure, but seizures in general, can be confused with a lot of other normal things that happen to babies. And babies move in really weird ways all the time, so it can be really challenging. I think the specific thing that is often confused with is reflux.
Okay, what do you mean by that? Sorry, by the startle reflex that Kate was talking about?
So the particular type of seizure that Charlotte has had are called infantile spasms or epileptic spasms. And it's a particular type of seizure that's very brief, often with a head drop and both arms go up and the eyes roll up. And it often happens in clusters, so one after another. The individual seizures are brief, maybe 2 to 3 seconds themselves, but they tend to happen back to back for clusters that can last up to 10, 30 minutes. But because babies do so many weird movements, and a lot of pediatricians haven't seen infantile spasms before, they can often be misdiagnosed as other normal baby movements, as other medical disorders, because there's so many people that just aren't familiar with this type of seizure.
Totally. So because of that unfamiliarity, Kate, what led you to just be like, I think we need to go see a doctor? Like, what was
We
that?
did show our pediatrician, and she reassured us, and of course that's what you want to hear. But it kept happening, and from what I understand, I can only speak to our experience, but from what I understand from other families that their children have infantile spasms, it maybe starts with not as many and then increases over time. And so the fact
And
that
Chris, I see you nodding. Is that the case?
It can be. It's often the typical is that they start out less frequent and then become more frequent.
Okay. I love how it's like, it can be, because with epilepsy, it's like, you never know. It's different for everyone. Like, and we keep looking. Yeah, we keep looking at doctors like, what's the formula? And you're like, there's a little bit of this, but like, it's so tough. Oh,
Yes.
Charlotte actually didn't have head drops at all. And so that, I always wonder if how I would have reacted differently if I had seen that. But anyways, just that there wasn't a name for it, that it could be explained to me, even though I was being told it's okay. Well, what is it? And it's funny, I almost canceled the appointment because, again, I was pregnant with my second, and I had just been put on bed rest. And
oh my gosh.
I was like, do we go to
had
this?
to be just exhausted. Like, I can't even imagine. Yeah.
It's funny, like, it was a horrible pregnancy, but then I completely forgot about that. And like, after we were diagnosed, and you just completely forget about that. But so we went to that appointment, and almost immediately looking at the videos, he said, this looks like infantile spasms. And I had never heard that word before, didn't even know that was epilepsy, and didn't even know what that means, infantile spasms. It doesn't sound as devastating and scary as it actually is. Spasms to me sounds a little like, like a twitch or something.
Or like a Charlie horse in your leg, after running or something. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And it was like kind of weird because she wasn't an infant anymore, but he recommended that we get an EEG and see if there was hypsarrhythmia, which is usually accompanies infantile spasms, and really the biggest indicator of something wrong in the brain. And we got that EEG, and it did have hypsarrhythmia. And I think at that point we still didn't fully understand the gravity of what the diagnosis was. And I even asked, I'm due soon, and they think I'm going to go even sooner. Do you think that we can maybe wait to treat this until after, I have Teddy? And honestly thinking that we were going to be like, of course. And he said, no, this is a medical emergency. And like, I'm a dramatic person, and so like, for somebody to be telling me like that I was underreacting was like very alarming to me.
Totally.
Because I'm not often told that. And
well, it makes me wonder, like, so this you say he said, do you mean a neurologist? Were you seeing a pediatric neurologist this time? Okay. It kind of also makes me wonder if sometimes like if maybe the message wasn't, and I'm not trying to point fingers or anything, but sometimes the message doesn't get conveyed as to how urgent something is in an appointment so as not to alarm someone, right? It's like all good intentioned and something. And also it's like, he probably sees this all the time. And so it's just a different perspective. But if you're sitting there like, can we just like wait on this, you know, like, and you say you're a dramatic person, I don't know. I'm not, again, not trying to point fingers. I'm just saying maybe the message wasn't being totally conveyed as it
And
should be.
it's funny
I
you
don't know.
say that because, you know, skipping ahead a little bit, as then I connected with other families with a similar diagnosis, I realized that once we went to Boston Children's, which is how I got connected with Chris, her doctor that we ended up seeing was, at the time, I was so offended and so like taken aback at how very blunt and very, you know, just serious and you know, all of the information that it's likely going to be drug resistant, and to think about exploring brain surgery, and just a lot of heavy things. And at the time it felt really like a lot, and I'm now so grateful for it because we were given all of that information and really understood how serious it was. And I think, you know, the delivery is not always like that for families, and it's almost maybe because they're not trying to scare you, but they don't understand how serious it is. And then when it continues to be, you know, really affecting their child, they feel misled because it is so serious, and it can lead to so many other things.
Totally. And Dr. Briscoe, oh sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just see Dr. Briscoe nodding and you're like, uh-huh, uh-huh, you're right on. So what's your take on this as a practicing pediatric epileptologist?
So, I think that there's one thing which is culture, and I think that there's some of what Kate is describing is there's still a culture of paternalism in medicine. We don't want to scare people. We know what's best, and I think sometimes that gets read. But I also think sometimes as physicians we don't get good training on how to break bad news, or people don't develop that skill set. Where it's really hard to tell someone that their child, who is a cute, usually a cute baby who looks fine, who's having these stiffening
Mostly
movements.
cute. Well, he has some
Yeah.
of those, but it's okay. They turn cute later. We all know that. When you have an ugly baby, they turn cute later. Okay. Sorry.
And so, but they're having these 2 to 3 second movements that don't look that bad. And so it's really hard to then be the person who says, this is a potentially devastating, potentially fatal form of epilepsy. To be the one to deliver that news, I think, is to a new parent, usually, of someone who often had no idea that their kid had a medical problem before. Sometimes they do, but often had no idea that there was a medical problem with their child before. So I think that there's also just a need for more training and practice about how to break this kind of bad news with compassion, with empathy, but like also with honesty about what this means for families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's like, I appreciate that very human answer about, because we do, you know, put neurologists and doctors on a pedestal, you know, sometimes. And so, and I think forgetting about the human side that you guys go through. Okay, so Kate, so we left off with, you getting like bomb dropped on you at Boston Children's Hospital with like brain surgery and all these scary options, for and this time she was 2, 3, how old was she? 2 years old. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
So, what has that journey looked like since, and how is Charlotte doing now?
There is a lot that happened between then and now.
Isn't that so
And
weird when you're like,
it,
I need like a novel to
Yeah,
explain the last few
right.
years. Yeah, I get it. I know.
But at the same time, it hasn't been that long, and I also recognize that this is um, I can only speak to our journey, and it felt obviously so long and excruciating for us. But in the scheme of a lot of kids diagnosed with this, Charlotte, I can't believe I'm even saying this, is actually very lucky. Um, so we, did a couple rounds of medications, then didn't work. They seemed to work, then didn't work. And in hindsight, I wish we had maybe started with more aggressively. I don't know. Hindsight's 2020.
And that's the worst because sometimes it's just like it's not even 2020. It's just like all the what ifs that I feel
Right.
you. I have the
And who
same
knows?
conversations with myself about the medications I started on and what I did and didn't do. I get it.
Yeah. And you know, she ended up anyways, she's doing really well now. She is, and
What does
that
really
is,
well mean to you?
well, she's not having spasms. So that is a huge win. She's not having spasms, and at this point, her cause is the cause of a focal cortical dysplasia. And it's funny because at one point we felt like I was so just offended at the even suggestion of surgery, and very quickly changed my view on that to feeling so extremely grateful that we even would be a candidate for surgery, because her cause of infantile spasms is in some cases able to be resected. And so epilepsy just doesn't make sense. And it's so weird that when she first got seizure freedom that has now lasted, I was annoyed because I was like, great, this would have been here before, and then we relapse, and we're just going to be back here. But this is now delaying being able to continue pre-surgical testing. And what mom is annoyed that, great, like like now I can't cut my kid's brain open. Like, and that's what epilepsy does to you, that it's, you're so desperate. I was like I will do anything to get rid of these. And we had gotten to that point and then relapsed several times. And so and of course, then it continues, and I'm not complaining.
You're
But
allowed to complain. It's okay. It
no.
sucks. It does suck no matter what. So it's okay.
And then she has continued to, knock on wood, be seizure free since then. And so we have not at this time needed to revisit surgery. And, she will always have that focal cortical dysplasia unless, we do have surgery, which is not completely off the table. But a lot remains to be seen, and it's really easy to say I'm just trying to enjoy every day, because I still constantly, to Chris, go down rabbit holes and get so nervous. And, it's not that I don't worry, but she is otherwise a happy, healthy, thriving, almost 4-year-old. And that is just something we did not think that we would ever have, and is not, unfortunately, what a lot of kids get to experience. And that is so heartbreaking, because every kid deserves that. And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. It was,
Yeah. It's well, and that's the thing, that because you said like this is what epilepsy does to you, kind of jokingly, but like also what it does, and I notice this with so many guests of mine, is that people will say it, preface it with like it could be so much worse. However, this is where we're at. There's like this acknowledgement of gratitude, but also like a little bit of like when you're like I'm not complaining, and it's like no, it's okay. it's okay. Like you can be grateful and say it still sucks at the same time. And I feel like as in the epilepsy community, we have to remind ourselves that all the time. I do that to myself all the time. I'm like, well, my seizures aren't convulsive, so like I have no right to complain. It's like, no, you do. Like, it's
It's the
okay.
power of and, that it can be both.
Absolutely.
That they both can coexist because, we are grateful, but I am still a neurotic mess all the time.
And that's allowed and normal. And so, okay, so Dr. Briscoe, so, Kate just said this is not the typical outcome. What is the typical outcome for someone who is suffering from infantile spasms? And I know this is like a loaded question because it's like, what's the typical outcome? And we're like, it's epilepsy. We don't know, but like,
there's no typical.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think the first thing about statistics, as you guys know, is every case is a case, and so there can be percentages, and I think they're important, but also realizing that people can fall on either spectrum of those. Most kids, around 60 to 70, sometimes some cohorts higher than that, of kids who have infantile spasms will go on to develop other forms of drug-resistant epilepsy. So most kids with spasms will have epilepsy for their whole lives. Most kids who have infantile spasms will have developmental delays and can have very significant developmental delays. And so that's usually quoted as, in most cohorts, around 80%. And if you look at, it's always hard because when we are looking at these large cohorts that have really long follow-up, that was a long time ago, and so a lot has changed. But most of the cohorts that we look at statistically show that about 10 to 15% of kids will have a cognitively normal outcome. So they do exist, but it is a smaller percentage. And this is why infantile spasms is so hard, because it's not that there is no one who is seizure-free and cognitively normal at the end of it, which would almost be clearer, but that it's a small percentage. And so when families are getting counseled about this, and Dr. Harini, who is my mentor, and who is Charlotte's neurologist, epileptologist, does such a great job of it, is knowing that most kids are going to have these things, but not all. And I think that that's a really hard place for families to be in, especially when they're so little. We were talking about 6-month-olds, a year-old, oldest 2 years old, and to be told that that's the trajectory of your child is unimaginable.
Absolutely. I just want to say I really appreciate your empathy, Dr. Briscoe. That's all. I just appreciate it. As this is what you practice, and your empathy is just really beautiful. So let's say there's someone listening right now who is like, I need to find more information on this. I need to find a resource. Dr. Briscoe, where would you recommend someone, if they're just like looking for like information overall, where do you recommend that they go?
So for epilepsy in general, epilepsy.com, the Epilepsy Foundation website, is a great place to go. They have lots of information that's written in an understandable way about medications, medication side effects, different types of epilepsy. For infantile spasms in particular, infantilespasms.org is the Infantile Spasms Aware Action Network. I should know that. ISAN's website, and they have
There's so many. It's all good.
The ISAN's website has a really great videos of what infantile spasms can look like, and kind of next steps for families who are concerned that their kids could have spasms. Yeah, there's lots of times where we bring people in and we're concerned about spasms, and it's not spasms, it's normal baby movements. And so I think not to go down a rabbit hole too quickly, but I think it's a good thing for people to know about.
Yeah, like you said, if there's that parent gut instinct, maybe go check these out. And then Kate, I know you're involved in another pediatric epilepsy advocacy group, correct? Called PERC? And what's that about?
So Chris actually introduced me to them because she's a member, and I am so grateful for them because we've talked about their amongst the many overwhelming things after you're diagnosed, there are so many organizations, and it's just a lot to navigate. And PERC in particular, I just love how simple it is. A bunch of neurologists from all across the country, and what sticks out to me is, I mean, it's the most direct way to um, support pediatric epilepsy research, because they don't, focus on all the different resources and strictly research. And there are incredible, like, we go to the best in the country, Boston Children's, and yet if you're only looking at Boston Children's or say UCLA, Cleveland Clinic, anything, then it's not cohesive. And so I really like with PERC that it is a group, and they have special interest groups, and they're just focused on doing the research.
Making a difference, making that impact, moving things forward. That's awesome. And just so everyone listening, all of the links that were just mentioned are in the podcast episode description today. So if this is something you need to look into, just go look at the episode description and the links will be right there. Okay, and now the fun thing, which is, I mean, it's weird to say it's fun, but it is fun, is this book, Char Bear Keeps Dancing, which the two of you wrote. Okay, so Kate, and that's how you guys met, right? It was because okay. So Kate, what motivated you? What was like, there needs to be a children's book about epilepsy? What was that motivation for it? By the way, it's amazing. I love this book so much. Like,
thank you.
Yes.
Well, there's actually, of course, when we were diagnosed, I looked for children's books on epilepsy, and I think I got every single one, and some of them are great. What stuck out to me was they were a little bit higher level of understanding, and something that I didn't think Charlotte would be able, or her peers would really understand. And it's funny because now that, she's a little bit older, some of them even come into play differently. But at the time, really wanting something that was not scary. And it's hard because it's a very serious and scary condition, that infantile spasms is, but epilepsy is so misunderstood. And Charlotte being older, being diagnosed at 2, she was already in preschool, and so she was with kids, and not a baby like a lot of other kids when they are diagnosed. And so it was never intended to be a children's book that we were going to publish, and I really wanted to have something that I could explain to her classmates and her, what was happening in a way that was digestible for them. So we say things like, you get stickers put on your head and it might look silly, but it doesn't hurt, and just things that kind of make it easy for little kids. And I'm not
that's
clinical.
easy for an adult too. Like, I'm gonna next to EG, I'm like, I just get stickers on my head, like, love it.
And that's kind of what as I shared it with her neurologist, she connected me with Chris, and as we started to show it to more people, it even helped me kind of understand things, and just a very simple intro to epilepsy. And Charlotte having that resource and being able to read it to her class, they just did it for Purple Day, and I got the sweetest note from one of her
So wait,
friends.
it was just read in her classroom with all of,
Yeah.
oh, come on. That is so
So
amazing.
it was purple day, and like I'm annoying, and I also didn't want to be the parent that made everybody remember something in the morning. So I wasn't gonna say anything. Everybody wear purple this day. She was gonna wear it, Teddy was gonna wear it, but I wasn't gonna do anything. But the school took it upon themselves to have everybody wear purple. So my mom
Wow.
heart, like I was crying the beginning of the day.
Oh, totally.
But
100%. Yeah.
and then, they read it, and Charlotte, when I talked to her teachers, and they said that, she was able to explain to the class, like, she has epilepsy, and that means that something's going on in her brain, and that EEGs don't hurt. Um, that was such a that was something I didn't ever think that she would be able to verbalize, explain, and again, holding compassion for the children that are not able to verbalize that or even be in a school setting. But for us, that was so special. And what I had started to say, one of her classmates' moms messaged me and said um, that it was such an easy way for them to explain to their child that everybody dances differently, like, their brain dances differently. And that's really what neurodivergence is, that whether it's epilepsy or not, all of our brains dance differently.
Oh my
And
God, I love that. I need that on a pillow. All of our brains dance differently. Oh, that's
right. And
so beautiful.
just that introduction at a young age, and that, but we can all dance together, um, is, inclusion is the number one thing that you worry about as a parent, and being othered, or um, just that they are proud of themselves. And I, if I had to do it all over again, would probably, do things differently, would learn so much. And I probably wouldn't call it Char Bear Keeps Dancing because, it centers around just one person. But, it for us, obviously Charlotte is my priority, and to have that experience for her, and her being proud of, her being different, is all you can ever hope for your kid.
Absolutely. And I just think of the like that other parent reaching out, and saying thank you because, this could be I think about that all the time like with my friends' kids. Like I'm like, how do they explain my epilepsy to them? Like and now I have the answer in a book. So, I think it's just making such an impact not only for Charlotte's life, but also for those kids and those parents because now these kids are learning at a very early age what epilepsy is and not to be afraid of it. And when you have that like core memory, I mean, come on, that's amazing. So what did it look like with you guys working together? Like, and that's okay. And back up, because that's how you guys met was for this book, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So what did that whole process look like? Were you guys just like, typical writers at a coffee shop until, midnight, like hammering it
No,
out?
I joke. I think that I was just messaging in my chart too much, and Dr. Harini was like, Chris, please take her off my hands. No, no, I'm kidding. But I think we're really cut from the same cloth, and Chris gave me, I was not in a good place. I was not looking to, have this. I didn't know what was up, and I was also, freshly postpartum, and
Oh my God, you poor thing.
no, Chris gave me the confidence, and was also, you know, if you think about something too much, you're never going to go anywhere. And we just really matched energies, and like kept going forward. And um, Chris was the real mover and shaker in it.
So Chris, like you
No,
get this request. What was your response when you're like, a book? Epilepsy? What? What was like what did that feel like?
I was so excited because I think that my particular way of viewing the like what we do as epileptologists is a partnership, because each person, the epileptologist, has a specific set of knowledge, and the person who has epilepsy or their parent or caregiver has a specific set of knowledge, and working together to kind of make the best plan that you can. And I was so excited about this book because I think I edited it very little. To be honest, I didn't do very much other than just being like, this is awesome. Seeing the way that Kate was able to explain this very complicated thing that as epileptologists we can talk ourselves in circles around for probably hours, if not days. She was able to explain it in a very simple way that was heartwarming and accurate. And I think for people who are newly diagnosed with pediatric epilepsy, just such a heartwarming and compassionate way to enter this really challenging and often heartbreaking diagnosis, to have this warmth and this understanding and easy way to share. And there are books like for cancer and for other child conditions, but I had never seen one in that particular vein for pediatric epilepsy that was just an invitation into starting to understand this really complicated and hard disorder.
I love that. An invitation to understand. That's absolutely what it is, and has expanded to the bears, which I'm grabbing mine off my shelf right now.
Yeah.
When I saw these were coming, Kate, I lost my shit. I was like, oh my God, there's a stuffed animal with an EEG. We have the bear, the actual stuffed animal. If you're listening and not watching, I am holding up the cutest little stuffed animal. It has an EEG attached. You can take off the EEG, for when the bear doesn't have it. It has even the little backpack with all the cords and stuff. And I am just, it has the medical bracelet. Sorry, I love stuffed animals. So they're
It's
so
so funny.
comforting.
Adults, if that, I didn't expect that, but adults with epilepsy love it too. And I can't believe something like this didn't exist. That is just, wild to me. And was frustrating. And another thing I would have bought if I could have. And I even tried to ask people on Etsy, and nobody understood what I was, trying to ask them to make.
You're like, excuse me, I would like a bear with an EEG. They're like, what the fuck
Yes.
are you talking about?
Yes. So I cut up one of Teddy's birth cloths and made what I wanted it to look like, and used markers and everything. And because it was, at a weird time that we didn't know what Charlotte would start to understand or not, and it was exciting that she cognitively got to a place where she understood what was happening, but then came other challenges with she didn't want to get it done. And like you said, it's the tampons of epilepsy that it's I wouldn't want it. It is anyways.
Yeah, it's not
And
fun. It's just not fun.
No. But she has to, and like Chris also explained, it's so important it being done right, that you keep it on, and that you're not messing with electrodes, which is hard with a toddler. So
I can't imagine. It's hard with an adult.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then you sleep with it, and it's a struggle. And so I was like, I'm gonna make a stuffed animal, have to do it with her. So she had the little friend, and then I was just gonna do one, but that is, I think, kind of where my world opened to not just infantile spasms families and the epilepsy community larger. And I was just talking to my friend Claire, who really pushed me and was like, you have to make these, because there isn't anything like it. And then, I got feedback from other families, and to me, I was going to make everything attached because I thought that if it could come off, you'd be able to lose it. And really, it was awesome to work with everybody in the community to be like, what would you want to see? And what would you like? And to have it be a, final product. It's our first version, and we're actually, kind of redoing it now and gonna
I'm
have a,
excited for Char Bear 2.0.
yeah.
Awesome.
But really, uh, just the conversation, I think, around representation, especially right now, is, as a parent, it's so important for kids to see themselves in things. And Charlotte seeing other kids and other kids seeing a stuffed animal that is getting something done that they get done, um, and that there wasn't anything like that before, is really exciting to be able to share with people. And it's exceeded, even my wildest dreams so far, that we're in about, I think I told Chris, was it 15 hospitals, um, in the US, and a couple in Canada, and a couple in the UK. And
Wow.
really just how misunderstood epilepsy is, and underfunded, under-researched, and just the visibility of it because it is so nuanced. Um, Unfortunately, like, we can't change how individualized it is, but everybody has to get EEGs, and to, have something that can hopefully be a source of comfort, to people during that, is something that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, it's intangible. It's like, well, it's a tangible thing that creates an intangible feeling. And so I just appreciate it so much. And you mentioned that hospitals, have it. And so, like, I just want everyone to know, like, you can order, a bear, a book individually, but they can be ordered in bulk, right? At
Yeah.
charbearkeepsdancing.com. Again, that link is in the podcast description. Okay, so what's that goal like, and what can we do? Because I just want, like, everyone to have these in I want every EMU to have these. I want them to be everywhere.
Well, like Chris and I have done everything so far, winging it and not totally sure. But in,
Only way to get
everything,
things done, right?
right? Um, any person that's reached out, child life specialists, it just has opened my world to so many different things. Like, they are God's gift to earth. It is just like, and I actually, completely unrelated, I work in healthcare, and I know firsthand that, resources, neurology in particular, it's not the big money maker, and it's not something that, um, you know, is they're going to spend a lot of money on. And so, my goal is to, hopefully be able to have some sort of model where we can, donate them to the hospitals that don't have resources. But right now, any pediatric hospital that has wanted one, I've found a way to be able to give them one, and I would like to be able to keep doing that. I'm sure my husband would like it to be a little more formalized, but
You'll get there.
yeah,
It'll
yeah,
happen. It will. And then, okay, so I just want to point out too. So if someone's listening and they're like, I don't need a bear, I don't know, like a foundation or a hospital, but, like, they can donate, right?
yep,
Okay,
yep.
awesome.
Yeah, so they can donate, and we've worked with, hospitals, depending on how many they need, discounts, and um, people, I think, have been, parents especially, have been so generous. We had a parent donate 100 to UCLA and 100
Wow.
to, um, a hospital in Kansas City, and
Wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah, because if
amazing.
have been there, you're like,
Yeah.
it makes a difference. And yeah,
Yeah.
so
I was thinking about, so my last EMU stay was in January, and like I hadn't gotten the bear yet, and I was thinking about the bear the whole time. But then I got like, and it was one of those things where like it of course arrived like while I'm in the hospital, and but I came home to the bear still, and it just warmed my heart. I remember like I opened the book. I was like, I can't read this tonight. Like I had just gotten home. I'm like, I am too emotional from what just happened. And then like the next day was just like amazing. And it's also in Spanish too, right?
And French.
Spanish, no
Yeah.
big deal. So yes, so like if you're thinking of a hospital that maybe has more Spanish speaking population, that's available as well. Or if you just want to send some to Paris, I mean, I will take some to Paris, like just for the kids. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is just such an amazing movement that you're creating, and is just the beginning of something that's going to really start changing things from the ground up, which is kind of the only way I think to change things. So I'm just so appreciative to both of you for, partnering together. And Dr. Briscoe, like you said, just forming partnerships with your own patients. I love that. I'm taking that. It's so beautiful. And before we wrap up here, I'm going to ask you each 4 questions that have nothing to do with what we just talked about. Little fun.
Ooh,
I know.
putting us on the spot.
Uh-huh. Okay. Number 1. What's your favorite color?
Pink.
Turquoise.
Oh, these are very good and very good together. No wonder you guys mesh so well. That makes complete sense. Okay. Number 2, do you have a favorite TV show that like brings you joy that you watch, or something you're binging right now that you're like, it just helps me zone out?
It's so funny because
Or you're like, I have no time for TV, you asshole.
no, I used to like the more like messed up the show was, the more I liked it. And what trauma does to you, now I totally have to watch super light things that are funny, and Ted Lasso is probably top of the list right now.
Same. If you need a serotonin boost, I just turn on Lasso. I'm the same way. I can't watch anything that's like has any sadness in it or any.
Yeah, just
It does change
no
you.
place for that.
Yeah.
So Ted Lasso for me.
100%.
What about you, Chris?
So this is embarrassing, but I only have one subscription to a streaming service.
That sounds healthy, not embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's very healthy.
And she only watches TV when she's working out, so like we hate her even more.
Wow.
I know.
Goal. You're just like a living life goal.
No.
Right?
So it tends to be whatever is first on that streaming service, which is not always good, and I don't always particularly enjoy it, but it. So the latest thing has been The Invincibles, which is like a cartoon.
Oh, nice. Hey, so again, light and easy, I assume. I'm not well versed, but yeah. Awesome. Whatever gets you through that workout. Wow. Okay. I need to get my shit together. Okay. Number 3, what does it mean to you to be a friend?
Whatever. Meet them where they're at. And I think I've really appreciated the friends that have shown up in this time. I was also talking about this with some girlfriends in the epilepsy community. It kind of changes, and people are afraid to, like, if they don't want to say the wrong thing, and I get that. But the people that show up anyways, it's really made me reprioritize, especially when somebody's going through a hard time, just meeting them where they're at, because you don't have to know the right thing to say, and just being there.
Totally.
Yeah, I would say similarly. I was going to say like appreciating the best and the worst parts of people. But I think showing up also encapsulates that. And this is where I want to make sure I would give a shout out to the people who translated the book for us, because they did that because I harassed them and because they're great. One was my friend, Eris Hadjinicolaou, who's a pediatric epileptologist in Montreal, who translated into French. And the other one is my boyfriend, who is Francisco Coelho. And he translated the book into Spanish. So very much appreciate them putting up with all of my requests to retranslate the same page 5 times in 3 different ways.
Yes, well, one's a good friend, one's a good boyfriend. 100%. Yes, I love that. And yes, I also want to give my shout out and thank you and gratitude to them as well. I think that's very, very cool. And then the last question is number 4. What is your favorite self-care thing that you do for yourself, no matter how small or big or time consuming or not time consuming it is?
I've answered them all first, so you go, Chris.
I think exercise is my coping mechanism.
What do you do?
So a lot of stair climber. And when I was in Boston, when I was in Boston and for the last like 10, 15 years of my life, I've done something called capoeira. I haven't been doing it here, but I hopefully will go back when I move back.
What is it? I've never heard of it.
It's Afro-Brazilian martial art that's like a mix between a dance and a martial art.
Damn, that is so cool.
When she told me that the first time, I Googled it and I was like, what is this? Yeah.
It's really great. And it's a great community of people.
That's so cool. What about you, Kate?
Not as impressive. Mine's shopping.
Yes. Online or in person?
Online. With 2 little kids, that's the easiest, but and just add to cart is a little form of self-care for me. So yeah.
I feel you. Sometimes just adding to the cart and never checking out is like.
And actually mailing out, I love snail mail, and that's partially I like getting packages, and I've loved packing all of the bears and the books, and I don't know, it's kind of exciting, like having something tangible that I get to, like, it's just me, so I touch every part of it, and I love sending the packages. It's fun.
That packaging is unbelievable. Like, it's so, like, it's like a moment when you're opening everything. Like, it's just so beautiful. I actually wondered that. I'm like, does she have anyone helping her? Because this is, like, so beautiful. So, like, you feel special with just the packaging alone and, like, the opening of the box. And everything is so beautifully done. And I am very impressed by that. And I can tell you love it because you do a great job.
Well, I try to tell people when the kids help because those people get extra stickers all over the boxes. But I think that just adds to it. It must.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. You guys, thank you so much for being here and having this conversation. I feel like I have learned so much. I'm sure people who are listening have too. And just the movements that you guys are making in your own personal and professional journeys are just very inspiring. Thank you. I'm just so appreciative of both of you.
Thank you so much.
And us of you too.
Oh, thanks.
And Kate as always is amazing. My role is a cheerleader, so thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks guys.